All right, Emily, thanks so much for doing this. My first question that I have for you is tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you started in the community.
Um, with home team,
Mm-hmm.
my dog is barking. What should we do about that?
Uh, at, let's keep it rolling.
Keep it rolling. Okay. All right. I like it. We'll keep it rolling. So let's see. I'm originally from Northern California. I've been an athlete pretty much my entire life. I started playing sports as a kid, and I also, as a child, lived in Mexico. And so those two things really set a big foundation to my life and still continue today. As you know, I have Home Team, which is working with retired and injured athletes and their mental health. And then I've now lived in 4 countries outside of the US. And so that's really shaped my perspective in terms of how I work with people and how I believe in being a good citizen of the world.
Mm-hmm. So, like in creating this organization, did you have experiences, not just as an athlete, but with your own mental health? Like during your athletic career, did you experience mental health struggles throughout that
I,
period?
yes, I did. Yeah. I actually started having mental health issues in high school. I was actually talking to my mom about this recently, and we were talking about how my diagnosis of major depressive disorder was pretty late in life. It was actually only maybe 1.5 or 2 years ago that I received a formal diagnosis. And so it began, as I said, in high school. I had a pretty acute depressive episode where I had suicidal ideation, I guess you could say. And then as I went through, as I went through university and was playing volleyball, I think I had, it's difficult to remember how many episodes that I've had, but I know I had one that was really, really tough. And then what inspired me to start Home Team was it was 3 years after I retired from playing volleyball at Baylor that I had a really acute uh, depressive episode where it was just terrible. I couldn't stop crying. And this went on for weeks. And in my depressive thinking, I was just trying to get out of it. And the only thing that I could think that I was good at was volleyball, which of course was not true. But it actually ended up leading me back to volleyball. And so I think that a lot of athletes end up going back to their sport because that's the only thing that they know, and they have not explored other parts of themselves. And when we're having mental health issues and we need help and we can't find help, we go to what we know. And so that's what I did. But that's also why I'm here to help athletes work with their transition out of sports through their injuries and with their mental health issues. It ends up not just impacting their mental health, but every area of their life.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say. Like, what do you do at your company to sort of help folks who have been injured, and sort of help them deal with mental health challenges that they may face?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big believer that in community, there's a lot of healing. And so when you're in community, you know that you're not alone. And that in and of itself can be very supportive. And so with Home Team, we are in our infancy. And so I'm in the process of developing products and conducting research to make sure that we've identified exactly what those pain points are for athletes. To be honest, the athletes today who are in their early 20s, it's not the same experience that I had. They have a number of different things that they're dealing with from a societal and cultural perspective. And so we're really doing our due diligence to make sure that we're identifying what their challenges are and then we're meeting their needs. And so of course, I have some hypotheses on that. And I believe that in, in building a business that all of our hypotheses need to be tested. And so that's what we're doing. I'm happy to go into what I think those needs are though, if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to discuss those needs.
Okay, great. So As I was saying earlier, when an athlete retires or they become injured and they end up have a career in an injury and they end up retiring because of the injury, it does nearly impact every part of their life. And so an athlete, an elite athlete has been playing their sport since maybe they were 4, 6, 8 years old. And as an elite athlete, you have to really remain focused and craft your passion and really commit to the sport. And so it leaves what ends up happening is that it leaves a lot of other parts of that person undeveloped in a way. And so they may not necessarily know what their other interests are or their other strengths are. The other thing is that so we are well, we want to encourage them to explore, to adventure, and see those other sides of themselves. Um, the other impacts are that their community becomes extremely fragmented. So they're on a team, and then literally from one day to the next, like people are moving away, they're graduating, they're moving for a job. And as an athlete, there's a certain way that you think and you feel in community with other athletes. And when that's not there, you're searching for more athletes. Another thing that happens is you stop training. And so your relationship to food and your relationship to exercise changes. And exercise and training are two different things. And so an athlete needs to learn how to not train and to exercise, which can be for just health benefits, for enjoyment. But when you're an elite athlete, like you have a goal, you are pushing yourself, and really that's no longer necessary. So that changes. What else? Let's see. I think that relationships also change within their family, within their community. Um, a big thing that I see is that athletes are very much looked up to and they're put on a pedestal. And then again, from one day to the next, they're no longer on that pedestal. So they end up feeling invisible. And that's a really difficult thing to cope with, being invisible. So let me think, what else? Food. Oh, we talked about food. But I think with women athletes, and this is not a surprise, but women especially feel this need to look a certain way and be a certain way physically. And so women as women need to relearn like what our bodies actually look like when we're not training 6 or 8 hours a day.
Hmm. Yeah, just kind of that idea of like women are like I this is and no, this is my opinion. Women are from an athletic standpoint are um put to a higher standard, they have to look a certain way, like you said, that kind of thing. So there are higher standards for sure. I would also like to add, because I remember during the Olympics, Simone Biles, who is the most decorated gymnast like ever, um,
Yeah.
competed recently had the twisties, and so
Yeah.
she was trying to perform a dismount. I can't remember, but and then she couldn't remember how to land her jump or whatever, and then so she had to say, "I'm sorry, I have to quit. My mental health is important." And I thought that was really impactful because she said to herself, "My mental health comes first over anything," and the backlash was just insane. Oh, why are you quitting this sport? You have to do this, you have to do that.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I do think that there's a different standard for women, not just physically, but it can be really anything. And I'm so glad that she did do that, that she prioritized herself. And we are seeing other athletes now speaking out and talking about their mental health. Michael Phelps is a big one. I know Kevin Love, with his foundation, the Love Foundation, is raising awareness around mental health. And there are a number of athletes, high profile athletes, that are beginning to have more dialogue on the subject. And I applaud them because their impact is what we really need because it's decreasing stigma and it's increasing access. So I'm really grateful to them for doing that.
hmm My next question is, like, what have you heard from like athletes, that participate in your company? What have they sort of said to you, like, in terms of like their experience with like as an athlete, but also figuring out how to get their mental health issues addressed? What has the testimonial been like from athletes that you've worked with?
Well, right now, mostly what we're doing is we're interviewing them and asking like, for them to describe their experience. And so some people have been very brave in sharing what those experiences have been. Um, there are patterns that have developed, and of course, everybody has their own unique experience. One young man that I met with recently, he explained to me that he really self-isolated himself. He started just holding up in his room. He started playing video games, and he at the same time was taking uh, this substance like a Zim pack or something. It was something I hadn't heard of before, and excuse me. And essentially, it initiated like a heart attack like symptoms. And
Mm,
so he realized that when over months of isolating and using the substance and holding up, that he really needed help. And so he reached out to his family actually and got some help, which I really, especially a male, to ask for help and say, you know what, my mental health is not good. Help me, please. And they stepped up, and that I really am proud of him for doing that. He's a great role model in that way.
hmm Oh, that's a great story to hear. Just kind of how they sort of go from this one episode and like triumph on the other side. That is really
Yeah,
inspirational. Um, my next question is, like, what do you guys do as a company to sort of partner with other organizations that kind of help athletes struggling with mental health issues? Are you guys doing any of that or?
absolutely. I really believe in collaboration, and I like to say that we're stronger together. As humans, we're incredibly complex, and especially when it comes to mental health, no one organization or person can meet um, all everyone's needs. And so I think it's really critical that we open up opportunities for collaboration, and we are doing that. I'm a member of Athletes for Hope. I'm on their legislative committee, and so I'm helping them advocate for change on a legislative level from state to state. And then we're also participating in Athlete Mental Health Week. I'll be leading a panel on the mental health of former athletes. There's a new coalition that has recently formed, and but the one thing that I'm seeing as a pattern is that there are many emerging organizations that are looking to collaborate, and they are advocating for athlete mental health, and I think that is awesome. That was not out there when I was an athlete, so we've made a lot of progress. The one thing though is that most of these organizations, I would say 99% of them, are all focused on current athlete mental health. The mental health of former athletes is massively overlooked and underserviced. What ends up happening is they're climbing this mountain, right, to of status and of their athletic career, and it ends, and they quite literally fall off a cliff, and they disappear, and things happen, and we need to address that because these young people are going into the workforce, they are starting their lives, and it's a complete disservice to them and to us, to society, that we're not addressing their needs.
How do you go about addressing those needs? To-
Well, one of the ways is to collaborate. I think that we need to address the needs very holistically. And so that's what I'm looking to do when it comes to partnering with different organizations. I welcome people who are listening today to reach out, please. I would love to hear what you're doing in the world and see what we can do together. It's again, we really need to stick together so that we can help as many people as we can, but as on a holistic level.
Yeah, spread the word. Exactly.
Spread the
Now,
word.
if I could just wrap this up, like what can people take away from this conversation? How can sort of, the athletic side and really help athletes, struggling with mental health issues? Because like you said, there are disparities not just um I would say throughout the entire athletic community, because you said former athletes themselves, are not getting their mental health needs addressed. So how do you go about really fixing those problems on the um community level, legislative level, because that needs to happen in order to address those needs.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you asked that question. I think it's a really thoughtful question. How do we go about doing anything? And we do it brick by brick. And so this is, I think, an emerging, I wouldn't say a field, but an emerging awareness. And that's one of my initiatives is to increase awareness and increase activism around the holistic athlete, around their entire life cycle. And so I think through awareness that there will become more, not only more demand, but I hopefully more services to meet that demand. And so, again, it's brick by brick, day by day. We need to lay that foundation so that we can be effective in helping them.
Mm-hmm. All right.